All right, and on this short video here, continuing our series going through the Rites of War of Legions we didn't get to originally, we're going to go through our Rites of War for the Imperial Fists. Just as we've done for the other ones, we're going to start with a brief recap in case you didn't listen to that episode or in case it's been a while, because it's been a bit since we recorded it. Then we're going to go through the three, in this case, Rites of War they have, starting with limitations, so that way we don't get too excited about something it turns out you might not be able to do. So, Steve, with his ever so strong love of Imperial Fists, has volunteered to not only do the recap, but also to do one of these Rites of War. So tell us why they're great, Steve. Why are these guys so great?
Imperial Fists are great because they make for really good walls. I'm not saying they build good walls. I'm saying when you pile up their corpses, they make great improvised defenses. So, as a Legion, Imperial Fists, one of their big things is that they are experts with bolter and auto weapons, so they get a flat +1 to hit with all weapons of those types, and their advanced reaction kind of leans a little bit into their Crusader theme, where they do where they counter assault against something. You move too close to me. Well, I'm going to charge you now because the best defense is a good offense. They have a lot of special units, and the Rites of War kind of lean into those units a little bit, especially the Hammerfall Strike Force and the Templar Assault, which really lean into the Phalanx Warders and the Templar Brethren, respectively. And I think we should maybe mention those with the Rites of War.
I agree. When we get to the Rites of War that require the discussion of those, we'll bring them up then, because then it's very well themed.
Actually, I'll do Phalanx Warders right now because they're going to show up in the first two Rites of War.
Yeah. Go ahead and talk about those guys right now then.
So Phalanx Warders are essentially a Legion-specific, what do you call them? Breacher squad.
Mm-hmm.
But they gain an additional power axe, making them good in close combat as well as, decently beefy. And they are really, really good when they, just in general, when they get charged, they get a bonus weapon skill. And they also get a bonus of +1 to vulnerable saves as long as their unit is all base to base, forming a shield wall. Yep. So they are tough. They're great on the defense. And if your community runs special characters and you bring Mr. Fafnir Ron with you, who is the misplaced Space Wolf model, he makes Phalanx Warders even better. So going into these first two Rites of War, that's a really strong combo. You should probably let your opponent know you're thinking about doing if you're going to do it, because it's a bit on the heavy-handed side, I feel, having played into it.
I'll take the first one, and I will mention that this one is kind of the one. It's one of the few ones I'll say that there are in the book where it's kind of like just tell your opponent that you're taking this before you're so. This is the Stone Gauntlet. Let's talk about the limitations. The first limitation is a detachment using this Rite of War must select a Phalanx Warder squad to fill compulsory troops choices in the detachments. So I believe there's two compulsory. Okay, so you need 2 Phalanx Warder squads, which you're gonna take anyway because of the effects of the Rite of War, but just they're mandatory anyway. A detachment, a detachment using this Rite of War may not deploy models using the Deep Strike special rule or otherwise as part of a Deep Strike assault, subterranean assault, or flanking assault. And any units must deploy by these methods, therefore cannot be chosen as part of the detachment. And last but not least, a detachment using this Rite of War cannot take more elites and fast attack choices in total than they have troop choices in the detachment. So, for example, a detachment with 3 troop choices can take 3 choices made up of fast attack, elite, or a combination of these 2. Right?
Yeah, it's troop heavy.
So, we're very troop heavy, but let's see why this is such a big problem. Not a problem, but it's kind of heavy-handed. So first of all, the Phalanx Warder squads are now taken as troop choices, and then they also get the Lines subtype and the Heart of the Legion special rule. All right, so they get the basic kind of now they're troops, but also Line and Heart of the Legion. Perfect. Any model in a detachment using this Rite of War, and with the Imperial Fist special rule, with a boarding shield, which, this might shock you, Phalanx Warders do have, which is in unit coherency with at least 2 other models that also fit these criteria, so Phalanx Warder squadrons get bonuses when they're base to base, may re-roll all failed and vulnerable saves made against shooting attacks or made during the fight sub-phase. This bonus may not be claimed if the unit is the unit. Oh my god! If the unit the model is part of has made a run, move, charge, or a sweep in advance, move in the current player turn, or is falling back. And then the last bullet point before I go back to what I just said, any model in the detachment using this Rite of War with the Legion Astartes Imperial Fist special rule with a boarding shield, which is in unit coherency with at least 2 other models, so the same criteria as before, gains the Hammer of Wrath special rule for the duration of any assault phase in which the charge is declared. And also it's whether or not the charge is successful, which I'm not sure why they added that, because if the charge is not successful, does that mean you get Hammer of Wrath when they charge you? Am I right? Someone kind of look at that
Wrath
one.
is when you charge, each model base to base does a hit at base strength.
You know, it says whether or not the charge is successful. So why did they add whether or not you don't get Hammer of Wrath if it isn't successful? I don't get it. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna ignore that. So essentially, yeah, exactly. I'm reading that in my brain enough, but so essentially it comes down to this: you charge with your Phalanx Warders or something with a boarding shield, and you get Hammer of Wrath 1, or you get charged as long as you didn't run or charge in the previous phase, or sweep into guards or do a sweep in event, and you get to reroll your invulnerable saves. Now, to recap on the Phalanx Warders, just like what Steve said, Phalanx Warders have a boarding shield. When they're in lockstep or shield wall, they get +1 to this invulnerable save. So that is a 5-up save. Correct me if I'm wrong, correct, Steve? 5 up or 4 up? Apologies.
It is a base 5-up, but the Phalanx Warder lockstep rule is going to make it into a 4-up.
Exactly. So now you have a 4-up invulnerable save. However, now if you're in coherency with 2 other models, so you're essentially in the shield wall formation, that is a re-rollable 4-up invulnerable save, which mathematically is just better than your 3-up save that you have. So you will pretty much always be taking a 4-up re-rollable invulnerable save, because you can choose which save you want. However, they also gain Heart of the Legion. So if you have an Apothecary in that squad, not only do they have a re-rollable 4-up save, invulnerable save, they now have a 5-up Feel No Pain, which they can take afterwards, unless they get hit with a Power Fist or something to the effect of.
And it becomes a 4-up on an objective.
And it becomes a 4-up on an objective. I didn't even count the objective yet, but yes, it becomes a 4-up.
If you want to bore your opponent to death while you're rolling dice, you can do this.
So the joke I was going to kind of make with this is essentially, if you want to play Dwarf Infantry, this is your Dwarf Infantry. Here is an entire unit of 4-up invulnerable saves, re-rolling with a 5-up or a 4-up, Feel No Pain, and if they're charged, they get weapon skill 5. It's a little tough. This is a tough noogie to crack. There are ways around this, of course. You can bombard them with a Scorpius, which is the most, because they are going to be. So the big thing here is they are going to be bunched up, right? They are going to be bunched up. So you can hit more with a blast, but it's still a re-rollable 4-up. Sure, they won't get their Feel No Pain, but it's a re-rollable 4-up, so it's still very tough nut to crack with these guys. I know Steve has had experience fighting them. I'm not sure if Dave has had experience fighting them.
Not this one,
no. Okay, but I could only imagine what this is, because a re-rollable invulnerable save, or at least just a re-rollable 4-up, is insanity. The only thing I can compare this to is, Jesus Christ, like Demons last edition, when they were near a warp portal, they had a 5-up re-rollable invulnerable, and that was already like annoying as hell to deal with. So I could only imagine what a 4-up re-rollable invulnerable feels like, on top of, let's say, the Feel No Pain that they most likely will get because you gave them an Apothecary. And I do like the Hammer of Wrath. The Hammer of Wrath is a neat little bonus. If you charge, okay, I don't want to get charged, I'm going to charge you. Here's 10 Hammer of Wraths. Right, because you'll probably get 10 in base to base if you're close enough. But yeah, no, it's a tough Rite of War. kind of warn your opponent a
Not
little bit
kind of.
before you take it.
This is one where
That way
yeah,
they kind of know.
if you're, I mean, if you're playing in a big enough
Okay.
game, maybe it doesn't matter so much. But especially if you're playing a smaller game, your opponent, you bring this, there's a chance your opponent doesn't get to touch you. Because if you are on objectives, the Heart of Legion part's not going to help you if you don't have objectives. But let's say you have objectives, you could have a 4-up that you roll 3 times. You know, you're looking at 1 in 8 then that you're failing a save on. Assuming you get your feel no pain. I mean, there's a chance you don't. But in like a smaller game, you might not be able to fight this. Yeah. Or at least it won't be fun to fight. Remember, you can win a game and have no fun. You can lose a game and have tons of fun. You might still win this game, but it won't necessarily be a fun game.
Yeah, I've experienced both, and I heavily agree. I will say, so as a slight note, because I do like. The problem is I like armies that look good, or I like armies that have a theme, and this is a super thematic army. This is literally Imperial Fists with boarding shields in a Zone Mortalis or in a what was the breaching ship called? The Castus Assault Ram, Steve? The one with like the melted, the one that looks like a weird
Yes.
U.
Says it's
You know,
Ram.
Yeah, that's the Castus.
Yeah. This is like, you have 10 Castus Assault Rams and they strike into a strike cruiser and like everything's dark and it's foggy and all of a sudden you see all these red eyes and out comes out like 20 dudes with fucking shields marching in shield wall formation, laying down bolter fire. Like that to me is pure Imperial Fist. This is like cool.
I would make the argument that all rites of war are meant to be the theme. Rites of War should fit a theme. So, this one fitting the theme, it fits the idea you like, but they all fit the theme of the army. Or at least they should all fit the theme of the army. The problem is this one the theme of that army makes it exceedingly strong. Comparatively so. The only big thing that I guess is maybe your saving grace to an extent is that your fast and elites are going to be limited unless you're bringing tons of troops. I mean, you can bring warders as phalanx warders if you got a whole bunch of them or you made a whole bunch of them. I don't know. I don't even know if they're even in stock. If you're running this, I guess go buy them. Any thoughts on this, Steve?
Exactly. I think they're out of stock anyway. Yeah.
Okay, that's you're allowed to. That's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to have any particular thoughts. I figured I would ask.
I mean, I have them, but I best not share them.
It's completely understandable. Yeah, I would say with this, be very careful when you're bringing it because you could lead to a very unfun time, and it's a shame in a game where you can bring something that fits what you want and what that means could be so disheartening for other people. I mean, it happens in war games.
Cough, cough,
Yeah.
Votan. Cough, cough.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens when they nerf those. But all right. Oh, we are on to Hammerfall Strike Force, which Steve graciously said he would talk about.
Yep. The other, not quite as oppressive, phalanx warder Rite of War. So limitations. Models of the vehicle unit type must begin battle in reserves and may not be assigned to deep strike assaults, subterranean assaults, or outflanking assaults. Note, you may still make those assaults, just not with vehicle.
Okay.
And then you cannot take fortification. Okay, so what is the theme of this force? What are the effects? Essentially, this is a teleportation strike sort of Rite of War. So we are getting phalanx warders as troops choices. We are getting infantry Imperial Fists, gaining deep strike for 30 points a unit as an option, which is pretty cool, pretty nice. And finally, models that are infantry, upgraded to have deep strike, gain the Shrouded 5-up special rule when deployed through deep strike. So essentially get a little 5-up dodge save. And that's it. So Phalanx Warders do not become line in its Rite of War. They're not going to be re-rolling their invulnerable saves. They're not going to be getting Heart of the Legion. They're going to be much more normal of a unit on the table. And thematically, I really like this Rite of War. Because it's the kind of thing you see a lot in the lore, but not very often on the table, which is, massed teleportation strikes. Because even in, general 30k, you don't get Deep Strike as a default option
No.
on Terminators. This Rite of War, you got everything. Everything with 2 legs, except for Dreadnoughts.
It'll get expensive fast because you are paying 30 points a unit to do it, but you can do it, which is a nice ability.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's really cool. It opens up a lot of doors, and it changes the way certain units just fundamentally operate. And it's really cool. I haven't seen this one in play, but I actually would not mind seeing it on a table.
Which that is high praise from a man who, let's be honest, you really don't like Imperial Fists, and that's fine. We can have legions we like and legions we don't.
Oh no, worst Legion. First of all, they chose to paint themselves yellow. First mistake. Yellow is best used as an accent color paired with black on shoulder pads and gun casings.
I do like this one a lot as well. I like the ability when you can change up the standard of what you do. Giving a unit line is cool, but it doesn't necessarily change up the way I see the unit. Maybe a little bit of application, but the unit's still pretty similar. But when I give a unit that normally can't deep strike at all, deep strike, now I'm truly changing what they do. Even because remember, these guys have +1 when they're firing bolters. So even your tactical squads are essentially hitting on 2s, assuming not knife fighting or anything else crazy. They're hitting on 2s. I don't even mind a 20-man tac squad popping down, trying to get within a 12-inch range of someone and firing off shots hitting on 2s. And then if you shoot me back later in any way, I'm now close enough, and I would have Fury of the Legion because in the reaction I haven't moved. Even things like that, I like that because it really changes up the way your base units work. So you can actually take you don't need all these different units to try and get a different feel to the army. You could take this and get a very different feel to your same exact units. And the Shrouded ain't bad. It saved my Egamatis a few times.
Nah, just be careful with Shrouded, because as of the latest FAQ, you cannot take Shrouded on any Fearless unit.
Like certain Primarchs.
So if you have something that's Fearless, like Primarchs, but also like Legion Heralds, if you wanted to add additional scoring to your list somewhere, or I forget if Chaplains are still Fearless or not, but like if you're Fearless, don't be taking that 5 up, because it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Too brave to hide.
All right. I mean that one's a pretty quick one.
I will say I like this Rite of War. My 2 cents is I did this with Custodes, so
Yeah.
I like this Rite of War. I never took transports. I paid out of the ass for teleportation transponders, which I think is this called the same thing? Do they call it teleportation? What do they call it?
Yeah,
No,
it's
just
purely
Deep
deep
Strike.
strike.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's just the war gear was called teleportation. Yeah, I would pay out of the ass for teleportation transponders, which people made fun of me for. It made me lose games, but I didn't give a shit because seeing Custodians Deep Strike on the battlefield is one of the coolest fucking things in the world. And this just plays to my. I don't fucking care about transports. They're just all of a sudden you see is like Deep Striking in 40k is a really cool thing. It's a little side fluff. Because basically you're ripping through the fucking reality of the you're ripping through the
Can we
fucking
throw
warp
a few less
to
curses
teleport
in?
yourself, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, you're ripping through the warp, essentially to teleport, right? You're going basically through hell, and this is just a really cool image in my brain. So this plays up to that essentially. This is exactly how I play my Custodians, and so I can see myself doing Imperial Fists, just writing this Rite of War. Not because it's good, but because to me it feels
Difference here is
awesome.
I think it is good.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I think it's another thing where you could fall in.
Well, yes, it is good. But I'm just saying. To me, it didn't matter if it was good or not. I was going to run it anyway.
I think you can
it
fall
just
into a
sounds
trap
cool.
of spending the 30 points of too many units. I think you can fall into a trap of putting too many in Deep Strike, because this in no way helps you modify when they come in. So again, you could roll poorly and they don't come in for a while. But I think you want to throw it on a couple of your units. I think it gives you some cool flexibility that you might not have otherwise.
It does. I should also put out, it does also benefit taking larger squads,
Yes.
which also I do enjoy because you're playing 30 points per unit, not like
Yeah.
5 points per model. So this does actually, you want to take bigger units
to
to pay
me,
it
I
out.
would take this with, in a larger size game, let's say in the 2,000 to 3,000 point range. I would be fine taking this. I'd probably take it with 2 units, maybe a third one. And like I said, especially if there's like objectives, or and you may not know ahead of time, but I would probably put this even on a big tack squad. And hey, if there's an objective, hey, that's where they're gonna pop down.
Yeah.
If not, they're gonna come and fire onto some of your more backfield units that I don't care if I lose some tack marines. Or oh, you got a squad with a bunch of last cannons. All right, I'm gonna fire them down. You fire back at me. I'm okay with that. I still got a shrouded save. And you kill a few guys, that's fine. I killed your last cannon squad.
Oh, this is really cool with Templar Brethren, which are essentially the progenitor Black Templars. You know, the melee styled Imperial Fists that go crazy. That's just this is super awesome. I smile ear to ear because this reminds me of how Custodians play, and I really hope GW continues that because it's just really cool to me. I do smile about this
All right,
one.
speaking of Templar Brethren, let's move over to the last Rite of War that these guys have, the Templar Assault. So before we get into it real fast, this is going to be all about Templar Brethren squads and things like that. So I just want to do a very quick review of what they are and how they work. It's essentially 5 guys for 150 points. They have the veteran stat line, except the leadership on their champion, their leader, is 1 better. They also have 2 up saves because they're an artificer armor, and they come with power swords. So they're similar to the stat line. They have better equipment. They also have Furious Charge, which is going to help them. They also have Crusader, which means when you're doing a sweep, that's you roll 2 dice, take the better, yes? Oh, just that D3, my apologies. Okay, that one's, D3. They have options of what they can take otherwise, but the big thing is they are meant for close combat. They are very well geared for that, being guys on 2 wounds and a 2-up save. So that's the sort of units we're talking about here. So for the limitations, detachments that use this Rite of War must select Templar Brethren to fill your compulsory troops choices in the detachment. So you have to take at least 2 squads of these guys. It may only be taken for a detachment and army with the loyalist allegiance, and all detachment of the army that includes a detachment with this Rite of War must have a variant of the Legion Astartes X special rule. So to take this, you can't take anything that's not essentially Space Marines. That's not Astartes. So you can't ally in Mechanicum or Talons of the Emperor or anything else. Detachments using this Rite of War cannot take more elites or fast attack choices in total than they have troops choices. So it's the same exact thing as they had for, what was it called? The Stone Gauntlet. Yeah, it's the same exact piece there. So you can't outnumber your troops with your elites and fast combined. It's another one where they want to take a lot of troops. That's, I think, the big push for Imperial Fists is your troop units. You can fill nice things into your troop slots, but you're taking troops. So what you get for all of this? Units of Templar Brethren may be taken as troops choices. That makes sense. They have to be at least your compulsory, but you can take more. All models in a Templar Brethren unit taken as part of this detachment using the Rite of War get Heart of the Legion and are line. So no matter where they fill in, because they may be troops, they could still be your elites if you want. You can take lots of these guys. But they'll have Heart of the Legion in line. And for the duration of any turn in which those Templar Brethren taken as part of this detachment using this Rite of War, when they disembark from a model, all models in the disembark unit gain Rage 2 special rule. It doesn't count if you had to do emergency disembarkation, but otherwise you do have that. So if you come out of a vehicle and you make your charge, you're going to get 2 extra attacks instead of the 1. These guys are base 2 attacks each. The leader, of course, is 3. And they have bolt pistol, sword, so you are going to start carving through people. I have faced this. I made a very bad mistake because I didn't remember what their advanced reaction was, and I walked forward to shoot them, so they charged me. Yeah,
Oh, no.
it was fine. I mean, yeah,
Rest in
that part didn't go
peace.
well, and I was like, oh yeah, they have that. Because until I see it, even though we've talked about it, there's so many of these reactions, so many little pieces. It's hard to keep track of everything.
No.
Yeah.
So less than 40K.
But it is very strong. It fits a theme perfect. You know, if you want to run Proto Black Templar, because that's really what this was, or what it is, I should say, it fits it perfect. It gives them a lot of good things. Templar Brethren are very strong, but they're also expensive. A 2-up save helps them a lot. 2 wounds helps them a lot. But there are things that won't care they're a 2-up save, and there's things that won't care that they have 2 wounds because it's going to be strong enough to double them out. These guys do not have invul saves naturally, and you're not getting any off of at least what they can naturally take. So a 2-up save is nice, but no invul means there are things that are just going to get through them anyway. But it's a good one. I'm not a big. I don't really care so much about Templar, but if you do, this lets you run that army, and I think that's really cool because you can run essentially a almost 40k army in 30k.
Yeah. I was gonna say this is basically if someone loves the Black Templars and someone wants to run the Sigismund as
Sigismund doesn't
their,
need this one if you don't want it. You can
not
still
the
run it, but
upgrader.
Sigismund makes them troops anyway.
No, but no, I know, but I wanted to say, like, you want Sigismund as the leader of these Templars. You basically, if you want to run proto Black Templars,
Yeah.
this is the proto Black Templars. This is your proto Black Templar. If you like the Black Templars in 40k and you wanted to see where they came from, this is how you run that. And plus, it gives you don't have to paint yellow. Well, you still kind of sadly do, but some dudes really paint these guys really cool because they do they do black, then they do like heraldry, like the checkered heraldry with like a yellow arm or a yellow leg, and it looks really cool. It's really fascinating.
I mean, you could paint these guys exactly the way you paint back Templars. At the end of the day, that's really what they are. Yeah, it might be technically before they've broken off, where Sigmund's, you took them all and ran away, but I don't see any problem with that. Do it that way. Be a little bit of an alternate scheme. For these guys, honestly, it's not really even much of an alternate scheme at all, but I would absolutely do that. But I want to make sure if Steve has any feelings about this. I know you don't necessarily like the Legion, but if you have any feelings about them, let us know.
I mean, these are the guys that will go on and proceed to portray the ideals of the Great Crusade by worshiping the
true.
Emperor as a god.
Very
So,
Very true.
I mean, I guess they're
What isn't
kind of all
but
heretics.
you play Iron Warriors. They definitely don't follow the Emperor.
Actually, I
No,
think
but
the
we at
Iron-
least respect the ideals of the Crusade. There are no gods, and mankind is ascendant.
Isn't Perturabo a demon at the end of it? Doesn't he?
He's a demon prince. That doesn't make him a god.
No,
Yeah,
but like,
there are no
he's-
gods. They
but-
are just sentiences in the warp.
oh, okay. They took the Fulgrim, not the Fulgrim. They took the Fabius Bile approach.
Kind of. He kind of
Yeah.
straight up denies existence altogether.
Yeah, Fabius Bile.
Whereas Iron Warriors are like, yeah, we're going to enslave these creatures.
No, these are cool Rites of War, though. I like these a lot. My favorite, again, is still Hammerfall. I like the idea of a mass teleportation. Again, that to me is a cool. So, little fluff thing, little 30-second fluff thing on why. In the books, and God knows I can't remember what damn book it is at all. But the Imperial Fists work very closely with the Custodes. That's why they share equipment, by the way. That's why Imperial Fists have Solarite power gauntlets. That's a custodian weapon that they gave to the Imperial Fists. They also use very similar teleportation technology. The Imperial Fists are very good at teleporting. So what this means is that the Custodians and the Imperial Fists both have the ability to, normally when people teleport, they have to stand still on the teleportation pad and then get teleported. Imperial Fists and Custodians have the ability to run into the teleporter and exit the teleportation running, which is that's just cool. That's just awesome. I'm like smiling, right? No, am I crazy? No, okay.
No, it's
That
fine.
might be
I mean,
insane.
I like fluff stories. I don't necessarily get excited about fluff ideas. I'll put it that way. That's just me. All right. I think we are good on the Imperial Fist then.